Whatever Dynasty.
It
No,
was
Dynasty.
It was Double or Nothing.
They got
Man, AEW and those names.
I know.
I can't keep.
It's hard to
track
keep
of.
up. Double,
only-
they're all gambling. All gambling related.
Well, there's what is it? It's not Revolution. What is
They
it?
take after their
Full
owner.
Gear, Full Gear.
Gambling.
Yeah, Full Gear, Double or Nothing, All In, All Out,
And the last one's Cocaine Blues.
Cocaine Blue. No, that's Tony Khan on a Sunday when he can't call his dealer. No,
Exactly.
but
TV show.
as I say, do you watch Yellowstone?
I watched the Field of Dreams stuff.
Oh,
Kevin Costner, baby. If you build it, they will come. Welcome to Rambling Dudes Podcast, episode 10. We've reached double digits. That's 1-0, baby. Who would have thought? Look at us. Look at us.
You look at it.
Yeah, to get yourself on camera. Look at you.
Look at that.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be on camera. He's a rambling
right
dude.
here.
There he is.
Hey guys.
Episode 10. Who would have thought? We haven't been together as a group in a while.
I'd say it's been probably a month, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a month since we all been together. Been kind of doing like satellite episodes here and there. Doing one every other week.
Been tough to do just with everything going on.
Nah, we've been producing good content. Good content.
Well, so is wrestling apparently. So good time to get back together to do an episode.
Oh my goodness, we couldn't pick a better day and time in the wrestling world to talk about wrestling.
True story.
There's so much going on in wrestling, especially this past week when you talk about WWE, TNA, even AEW. There's so much going on, so much good booking. We're really in I think a resurgence in wrestling, in popularity, in pop culture. I think we're on the up and coming for wrestling in general.
It's definitely, I don't like, for lack of a better phrase, it's definitely become cool again. I think, to be a wrestling fan. It's not so much that it ever, for non-casuals, it's always been cool, but for casuals, just to hear about it. I mean, there were people who went to Mania because The Rock was back. Yeah. And that was the whole sole reason of buying those Mania tickets. I mean, my nephew, who has been a wrestling fan most of his life, I got him into it when he was younger and stuff. He went to Mania because it was near him and he wanted to go. And he's like, I don't want to miss The Rock. I don't want to miss Cody. I don't want to miss, and all these things. And he went. And so it's just one of those things it's definitely a great time to be a wrestling fan. I mean, especially considering the era we just came away from, that late 2000s WWE, where it was just utter, we're going to give you whatever we want. You're going to take it. And then you had this kind of resurgence in wrestling because you had the internet fans who loved AEW. And and that's not to say that it's only internet fans who love AEW, but it's just, it kind of tailored to that audience. So it gave a genuine alternative. And then you see all the back and forth, who's going to go where. You saw the jumps, Cody went to WWE, Andrade went to AEW. Now he's back in WWE.
And he's going to Money in the Bank, baby.
Yeah. I mean, you have all these different options. The fact that TNA is finally getting, I feel,
oh my goodness,
kind of the respect that they really honestly deserved.
Always deserved.
Because I mean, it was harder back in the day when Jarrett was running everything, because it felt like it was Jarrett, and it was like the old school AEWA where it was Vern Gagne was the guy and then everybody else was beneath him. Whereas
Paul Levesque.
Well, I mean, that was when he wasn't technically running things. But I mean, and then you've got TNA now where it's just this collaboration of just different talent just doing crazy stuff and doing great stuff together. It's awesome.
I love that the Hardys are back in TNA. I love broken Matt Hardy as a character. Wonderful, as he says.
The best broken Matt Hardy thing I will ever think of was when he fought Bray Wyatt at the Hardy compound.
Yeah.
And he said chair of wheels, and it was the wheelchair, or mower of lawn. And he goes back and forth, and then he picks the lawnmower and tries to run over Bray. I mean, that to me, that was the best part for me. So
it's weird to see that resurgence of broken Matt Hardy and that character he developed in TNA, and then going to woken Matt Hardy.
Yep.
And then to AEW, kind of. I don't know if they even did that angle.
They did
a little bit.
They did a little bit. When he came in, he was kind of that almost broken Matt Hardy. He had the streak in his hair. He had the outfit that he usually wore and everything. And then they kind of shied away from it because he wanted to do something a little bit different. And plus, that didn't really work at the time because it was COVID.
Right.
And, he was up in the rafters and there's no crowd to really react to, holy crap, it's Matt Hardy.
Yeah.
But I mean, to see him be able to get that back over once again and change it up a little bit and switch it up is just a cool thing. I mean, as much as I enjoy the Hardys, it was rough to watch their go in AEW.
Yeah.
Not necessarily due to any one particular thing, but it was a collection of different issues with the fact that you watch Matt versus Sammy and Matt concusses himself and they still let him finish the match.
That was crazy.
Yeah,
I actually remember that clip.
Yeah, and then like you have Jeff who had his issues, got suspended. They're basically saying you either do it and stay clean or you're out. And I think he felt like he had really kind of let everybody down, and now to see him and Matt kind of doing their own thing in
he
TNA
didn't
again,
look bad. Like he looked like he kind of got his swagger back, going back to TNA a little bit.
Yeah,
it's weird too. Like the low production kind of camera angles work in their favor for like those older wrestlers.
Oh yeah,
as opposed to like the high production value that AEW kind of has
Yeah.
now. I noticed that when I was watching TNA, like that small arena,
yeah.
the pop's great, and then just like the moves that they're limited to. And now at older age, they're able to really sell it in those smaller audiences.
Yeah, definitely like TNA, like you look at back when it was like they were trying to restart the Monday Night War and everything with Hogan and Bischoff's genius idea to not do anything that was good for the company. And it just like, it's really interesting to see that a lot of those older guys, for lack of a better term, really just to be able to still hone their craft, still share it with the world. And it doesn't feel out of place, because as much as I enjoy the Hardy Boys as a tag team, and as much as I've always liked Matt Hardy, I was always more of a Matt fan than a Jeff fan. It's not a knock at Jeff.
I was a Jeff fan.
I thought.
What about you, Yachty? Jeff or Matt?
Yeah,
Jeff.
I just felt like Matt had, it was kind of like the old JR adage where he said Matt is the steak, Jeff is the sizzle. Jeff was a high flyer, and Jeff had very reminiscent of like a young Shawn Michaels kind of vibe and everything like that. But Matt had I felt like the fundamentals, and he understood what needed to change
character work
in his. He had
the mic.
He was better on the mic. He had good character work. Not that Jeff didn't, but Jeff is always like, I'm weird and that's my thing, which works clearly. I mean, the dude gets bigger screams than I'll probably ever see in a crowd unless I take my shirt off. And it's just like,
get it. Live screams with his shirt off. Man.
Yeah, it's a put it
Check
back
out our
on.
Patreon.
It's a put it back on. No. It's definitely not anything you want to see on a Patreon.
$10.99 a month, baby.
But it's definitely one of those things like. But it's
Nerd Archive podcast.
But it's definitely one of those things where I felt like Jeff was trying to be different, but I feel like he didn't really know how to execute. Yeah. Like you always hear about like when they first started getting older, and Matt has said on his podcast before, he goes, I told Jeff, okay, you need to pull this stuff back because you're just going to hurt yourself. You're going to wear yourself out. And, you can do those things, but make them special. Don't make them like an everyday occurrence. Because like you look at Darby Allin doing it all the time. All I can think of is like, you're not going to be wrestling in 6 years because you're going to be so broken. It's not going to matter. You know?
I think a big testament to Jeff Hardy is he was so good for so long. Like, I don't even think until like recently when he was in AEW started to see the slip ups, which who knows what's going on with his life and things like that. Right. But he, for the longest, like 25 years, almost 30 years, he consistently did it. And he looked good doing it.
But I mean, but in that same vein, though, look at his wrestling matches aside from like one or two. They were a lot of like kind of car crash vibe to him in the sense that he did those high flying spots. He did those like, look at me, like I'm going to do a swanton off the apron or whatever. And they were great. They were cool. They were these cool pop moments. But you look at like how beat up he just was. Like he's doing moves that wouldn't really hurt a normal wrestler who's taking care of himself, and he's hunched over. He can't get up. I mean, yeah, he did it. But how much of that was because he was on pain pills? How much of that was he was, doing stuff to make it possible? And I'm not saying that they don't wrestle hurt, because they clearly do. A lot of them do. And unfortunately, they pay for it later. But it's just one of those things, like you watch him now, I feel like he's got a good pace to where he can go when he needs to, pull it back when he needs to. And I think that was kind of their problem in AEW, is they wanted to be there every day, every week. And it didn't really work. And it's not saying that they suffered, but the presentation's different in AEW. Like you were saying, like the lower quality of TNA, that kind of grittier works for like the older guys. And
WWE in your house.
Right. Yeah. I mean, old in your house, or what that underground that they tried for all of like 3 weeks. But I mean, it's just
the underground. What is it? WWE Dark or whatever?
Right, yeah, or whatever. Yeah.
AEW did. No, they didn't do like
the
ropes off. They were joking about that.
Yeah.
What I was joking about that earlier. I was like, what if Shane McMahon shows up and TNA walks through the forbidden door?
They've been teasing that for so much. I just like, there's rumors that he's coming to AEW too, and I'm just like, oh please, just to what, blow out your quad in 5 seconds?
That was amazing. Snoop Dogg saved that match.
Oh my gosh, yeah. My wife, who does not watch wrestling on the regular at all, was watching it, and she was just like, what happened? I was like, he blew his knee out, I guarantee you. And sure enough,
yeah, amazing. I mean, not amazing, but you know,
I mean, it was amazing, just like not for the right reasons.
Father Time's undefeated,
right? Exactly. But I mean, yeah, getting with the whole like idea of like it's a perfect time to be a wrestling fan. It is. There's something for everybody. And the one thing I've really kind of tried to take, it's funny with WWE, I've always felt there's like this weird, almost kind of consistency to how they present their product.
Yeah.
Everything minus 1 or 2 spots makes sense in the grand scheme of things. Like everything kind of feels equal. People stand out because of like a move they executed or a match that they had, which was great. AEW unfortunately has not figured out, I feel anyway, has not figured out how to even it out yet. You have these spots that you can tell they really cared about. They really wanted to get over it. And then they had these spots that are like, oh, well, we needed that to fill time.
I think, too, it's more so matches over storyline.
Absolutely.
So it's like, how can we make the best match? Like,
now, and
I think that's like important.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But it's like a one-off match, right? It happens on Collision or Dynamite, and then you move on.
Yeah.
It's not like a build to it.
I think that's like this idea that they want it to be must-see TV.
Right.
And that's fantastic. But there's a time where that gets old. It's kind of and I'm not comparing them like apples to apples with WCW. It's more of an apples and oranges situation.
I compared TNA to WCW recently because I'm like, you think they're getting these old veterans back like they used to do.
Yeah.
And then right now they're in not competition, but I kind of see them as like ECW, WCW where they filter talent in,
right?
Kind of swap talent. Work as that developmental.
I mean, yeah, and honestly, I feel like that's a good spot for TNA. Not saying that they can't have their own stars because they clearly do. Jordan Grace,
fantastic.
You know, one of the best.
Appearing on Raw, come on.
I mean, she was in the Rumble and actually like was acknowledged as like a threat and everything like that. And I mean, it just I throwing up the one over there, Yachty. But I just feel like with the current landscape, I very much agree with that. AEW, while they do have stories that you are going to care about, they do. A lot of it is kind of lost in the shuffle. There's a lot of like these dream matches that have really no build. They're like, hey, it's a dream match. Well, fantastic. Why should I care about that? And they do a good job with their video packages. Yeah. But I kind of want a little meat and potatoes with my dinner. To watch like the match is the steak. I want the potatoes like of the story leading up to it and everything like that.
Was you hold up at 1 second? Do we need to pause?
No.
Okay.
I was just moving this.
Oh, gotcha.
But it's just one of those things. Like I feel like with TNA where it is right now, they have an opportunity not only for their guys to make a lot more money than they probably were in the last couple of years. Not saying that they weren't doing well because they were. I mean, you watch a lot of their production value has changed, and they brought in a lot of different talent. And I mean, it's become a place where people want to work. I mean, Will Ospreay could have gone anywhere, and yeah, he landed in AEW probably because he liked the schedule better and everything like that. But I mean, he could have easily landed in TNA.
Yeah.
CM Punk had they made an actual play for Punk. And he openly said, he goes, the amount of money I would have wanted, though, they wouldn't have really been able to do it, you know, but.
And I think it's going to be cool to see, and I don't think it's a real partnership until you see a WWE superstar in TNA.
Exactly.
And I think the big one is AJ Styles.
Yeah, absolutely.
You see him go there for a match or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, to see Styles do what he's been doing, I love how I've noticed this kind of weird discourse in a lot of writings where they talk about AJ finally showing he can play a heel. It's like, did you watch him ever?
Right.
Like
in Bullet Club?
AJ can do it all. And like, that's always been my problem was like, people have such short-term memories with stuff like that. The people who remember this stuff, it's like Punk said when Vince was like, I'm going to have you play a heel. And he goes, okay, so what's the challenge? He goes, I'm going to have you play a heel. And he goes, what's the challenge? It's like if you had watched anything he had done prior to signing him, you would know this dude can play the most evil dude on the roster, and people will, you know, still tune in to watch. Yeah. And that's what I like about AJ is AJ proved beyond like he's played a heel in WWE before. I feel like he's done a better job. I feel like Cody was a better foil for him.
I thought it was a great match.
Oh yeah,
I really enjoyed it. Clash at the Castle was fantastic.
Yeah.
My apologies, sir, for El Campeon. Damian Priest, he's not a transitional champion, clearly. As I talked about on the last podcast.
Shame on you.
I thought he'd be transitional. I thought they were going to let Drew have the strap.
He had to correct himself because
You have to let him know. I had to apologize. Just straight up. And I thought he performed well. I really enjoyed the match.
All rise to their campeon.
He kind of stole that from Roman when he went to the press conference. He's like, all rise or I'm not saying anything. So,
right. But yeah, I mean, yeah.
But it's a good gimmick. Like, that's his gimmick.
I feel like
and I thought his leg was broken.
Oh my gosh, like that spot was so scary. I was like,
I thought Drew's like, I can't win if he's tied up.
Yeah.
Just like, I feel like if they did not play this, like if it is something that they actually planned, it was executed well.
No way it's planned.
Well, there is a area where the referee tells someone, like, "Hey, the ropes are loose."
But the thing was though is they've come out and said that a lot of people were complaining about the ropes all night though.
Yeah.
There were issues. They were either too tight, they were too loose, and I think somebody else said like they had like a film on them just from like the conditions in the arena being what they were, and like there was a lot of issues with the ropes that whole night. Now, granted.
But that's the thing. That's what they do, though.
But I was about to say, with the grain of salt with that, though, is they also said there's no heat on anybody. It's like, okay, so which is it? There was a problem, and you're not upset about it because it was just something that couldn't be helped, or are you just not upset because it happened the way it was? Now, his leg spot
is crazy.
If that was planned,
incredible performance.
Yeah, I don't know how they did that because
literally they were struggling to get him out. It was like kind of reminiscent, not of because I've been watching a lot of documentaries. Mick Foley getting his head stuck
when he did
but not with his foot. I thought literally his foot was broken.
I thought he at least messed up his knee. Yeah. I thought he messed up his knee at least. I mean, like it just like. Oof, like anything with your leg like that, I'm like terrified of just because I have bad knees and everything like that. So
have you all watched the videos from Maven? You know Maven?
Yeah,
I've watched some of them.
So good.
I watched some of them.
I love it.
So he is.
Shout out Maven. If you want to be on the podcast, come on down.
That would be awesome.
Maven, I'm a big fan of your drop kick.
And
the best drop kick. Great eyebrows.
Though, like he was explaining how he entangled his head on the ropes a few years back, and how like he brought it out that it was planned, and the ropes were losing, so that could happen, and that he wouldn't get killed, or that so that's why I said like when it could have been made, and that's why everybody had issues with the ropes because the for his thing the ropes were loose the whole entire show.
And that makes sense. But I just felt like it was, I don't know, like if they did plan it, it was well executed because I think everyone was genuinely concerned. Drew sold it too.
I mean, that's the thing with wrestling in general.
You just don't know.
Yeah, you don't.
And that's what brings it great though. Like when you didn't know what was happening.
Right.
And that's fantastic. When we're talking about it right now, was it planned? Is it not
planned?
Right,
yeah. And like,
is it a spot?
That air of mystery still helps in a day and age where almost everything is known.
Leaked.
Yeah. It's like, it's either leaked or someone's talking about it or someone makes a YouTube video behind the scenes, the truth of whatever.
Right.
So it's cool when they can still fool their audience. I mean, it just shows that it's still really good theater. I mean, look at anything. I mean, the way I look at it for myself is I know it's all scripted, it's predetermined. For the most part, it's scripted. Sometimes accidents happen, things like that. But if you can make a character that makes me hate that person, makes me really want to see that person lose,
absolutely,
you got me. I'm an adult, but I want to watch this because I want to see this person lose. Like when we do picks for different pay-per-views, there are certain people who I know are going to win, but I won't pick them because I hate their characters so much.
That's like, what it's about.
Yeah. It's like I can't vote for this person because I don't want them to win. They're probably going to.
So who is a character right now, wrestling wise? It doesn't have to be any specific brand or anything.
Okay.
That you hate the most.
Logan Paul. But
really?
It's twofold. One, I really can't stand the Paul brothers in general. I just can't. They are. I feel it's very unearned the amount of success they have. At the same time, I don't know. I'll be honest. I'll quit being bitter about it for a minute. The fact that I work a 9 to 5 and they make you stupid YouTube videos
for now.
Yeah. And everything like
once
that.
this takes off,
Yeah.
rocket ship.
But it's just one of those things like,
you got that Patreon,
but then to see him be, to see him be so good at wrestling. But I mean, granted, the argument is always made like, well, he's training behind the scenes. It's like all these guys train, so like you can't really take that away from him. Like, well, he's only training behind the scenes. And yeah, he only has one match a year or one match every 3 months. But I mean, when he goes out, you'd never know that he's not a typical everyday wrestler. I would think probably, honestly, a character, if we're going straight character wise, that I cannot stand, Seth Rollins.
Really?
I appreciate what he brings to the table. I do.
You just think he's a great heel?
He's a phenomenal wrestler. I just can't stand him. I don't get this hype around him. I don't. He is.
Wow.
He's got that swarmy, I'm better than you vibe without, I feel like this is a guy who literally told the fans 6 months ago, I'm a self-made guy. It's like, dude, your entire character from when the moment you broke away from the Shield was Triple H and Stephanie helped me with everything I did. Now, granted, I get it. That's character work. That's the storyline. Obviously, Seth Rollins is going out there and having good matches with anybody he's wrestling. But it's just like the character part of it. It's reminiscent of like the John Cena part for me, where John Cena, as a person, is a phenomenal human being. He does a lot of great things, not only inside and outside the ring, but the fact that they had a face John Cena who had just lost the title to CM Punk at Money in the Bank. Rey Mysterio finally wins the WWE title at that Monday Night Raw. And Cena comes up to him and he goes, I know you're a man of, integrity, and I know you'd accept me because I'm the former champion. I want my rematch. He goes, you know what? That's cool. And they had it that night. John Cena's your white knight. You're like your Hulk Hogan of this new era. And granted, he kind of behaved like Hulk Hogan in that era of like, hey, I want my title back, so you should give it to me now. It's like the John Cena that they portrayed him as for years would have waited for the pay-per-view. Like next pay-per-view, it's John Cena versus Rey. And yeah, I would have hated Rey losing then too, but at least
we've uncovered some demons, folks. We're going back to 2008 here.
But at least it wouldn't have been like that. Whereas like with Seth Rollins, it's very much like he's kind of counting on people forgetting where he came from in a lot of ways. I feel like he never really had that kind of redemption arc until he did what he did to help Cody. I feel like, and even then it was kind of
he came out for Roman though with the Shield, right?
Well, I mean,
didn't he? Wasn't that when they came out as the Shield for Roman?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he tried to attack Roman and he got annihilated, which was hilarious.
No, I thought he was coming out to attack Cody though.
No, remember? No. He said he was he would be a shield for Cody. And then he literally distracted Roman, got blew out his knee and speared into oblivion. And it's just like, I get it, but I feel like he has this kind of thing that, and I can't fault him for it. He has something that people gravitate to. Clearly he does. That song, people will sit there for 5 minutes singing the song. Yeah. But and that's cool. That's awesome. But the character just isn't there for me. It's kind of like the Bucks, like, and actually that's another one since we've opened up this giant can of worms. I'm sorry, but with the Bucks,
Trevor's back,
back and ready to talk. But it's like with that over. But like with the Bucks, it felt very much like they're a team that.
I hate what the Bucks are doing right now.
They're phenomenal. They're phenomenal in the ring, and that's the other part of it. Is I don't know if I hate it because it's stupid, or if I hate it because they're so good at being that way. I love Okada as the heel when he goes out and tells people to shut up.
Man,
and
he's a lot
everything
bigger
like
than I thought he was.
Yeah, he's either that or the Bucks are last. Sure, than I remember.
Is this from AEW?
Yeah.
Okay, that's why I was like,
but like they come out and honestly, all right, so. When they had the all out pay-per-view, or was it All In? It was All Out. And it was the Bucks versus Lucha Bros in the steel cage.
Yeah.
And there's a part where it looks like Lucha Bros are going to lose. And the running joke between me and my buddy George was when I wrote all the names down, because we always did picks. When I wrote all the names down, the Lucha Bros were the only ones on the other side of all the winners that had won so far. So when they were about to lose, he goes, "You did this. This is your fault." And he's like screaming at me. Well, then when Phoenix kicks out, I think Penta either broke it up or Phoenix kicked out. I can't quite remember. And I just yelled up, vindication. And like, I just like, because I was so happy. But the Bucks are one of those guys that I can respect what they do, but I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't get the appeal. I don't understand it. It's not, they're clearly making money. They're clearly doing great things. They did a lot of internet stuff that like a lot of wrestlers probably didn't even know what to do at the time.
Yeah.
They've done a lot of great things for the business. Granted, some would argue maybe they've hurt the business a little bit with some of their antics of like, that vibe of like you're killing kayfabe, but you're killing it in a way that is almost insulting people who ever thought kayfabe was a good thing in the first place.
Went back to the click era, right?
Right. You know,
break the fourth.
But even then though, even with the click era, you still believed when Sean said he hated Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yeah. You still believed when, you know, all that stuff like that.
I think too, it's become very much like friendly. Like, so like all the wrestlers are friends.
Right.
So it's harder to like develop that heat,
right?
Unless they actually have heat,
right? Yeah,
I mean, like CM Punk in the locker room, like that was
right. Yeah,
they're fighting in the locker room.
They literally were fighting in the locker room.
That's good storytelling. I was signing a max deal,
but I mean, like, the whole thing with the Bucks is just like I can respect what they've done, but I just don't get it. I just don't understand it. I've watched them. I've watched plenty of their matches. I'm like, okay, that was a great match. But they just are my least favorite part about it. And I don't know if it's like this, like the tongue in cheek approach. I don't know if it just, they come off like they don't care when clearly they do. Yeah. You don't learn the Dave Meltzer driver, the Tony Khan driver. You don't learn that, you don't learn that move if you don't want to care how cool it looks on TV because it looks awesome. Yeah. But then you got guys like who really sell it as like, this is our business. Miro, Pac especially. I mean, the dude has a Twitter account to literally tell you where he's going to be, and that's it. He doesn't use it for like posting pictures on vacation or anything like that. I feel like
Drew McIntyre is doing a really good job.
Absolutely.
As a heel.
Absolutely.
As a just like almost authentically kind of real character. Like he's pissed off.
Yep.
He's not happy about the CM Punk being back. And behind the scenes probably cool with it.
I mean, I imagine they are now.
But like he's selling it so well.
Oh yeah.
I saw someone comparing it to like the Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Kind of days.
Well, that's what they said. They said it was Wade Barrett said on the post show. So they're trying to make it. This is the biggest screw job since Montreal, and it's
I remember that.
I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think that's true.
I've always found that hilarious to me. Like whenever they're like, "Oh, this is the biggest thing since Montreal." The problem is. This is not real. Montreal really happened.
Vince McMahon got knocked out.
Yeah, Vince got knocked out. He got
punch.
That giant.
You hear Bret Hart talk about it.
I love it.
I gave him
he just
one punch.
he goes, I told him if you come near me, I was gonna hit him. He's like, well, let's talk about it. He just.
My favorite's Sean in the back. He's like, I had nothing to do with it, man. I got nothing to do with it. They got video of that.
All respect to Shawn Michaels. I love Shawn Michaels. But the funniest stories to me are the three that Shawn Michaels getting beat up in the locker room was kind of a regular thing for him.
Yeah, he got beat up by 9 guys.
Well, the Marines thing, the Marines thing. Well, according to Bret Hart, they were Boy Scouts. But I mean, you know, actually, I think he said Girl Scouts, didn't he? Like with Shawn, like there was a Marty Jannetty tells a story on his Dark Side of the Ring where he was kind of blitzed on whatever he was taking, and he attacked Shawn. And he beat the crap out of Shawn. Now, granted, you could argue he was drugged up. Shawn was surprised, anything like that. But then you hear about Bret and him getting into a fight in the back, and he ripped a chunk of Michaels' hair out. Just like, Shawn, it's like, you're a great wrestler, man, but kind of defending yourself. I kind of got to wonder.
That's why he's so good at selling. He even sold in real fights.
That's why he always had Diesel and Scott Hall around, and he even said as much like Triple H said when interviewed about that fight, where they beat him up in a bar, he said, he was doing what he always did, but he always had me or Scott or Kevin around.
Talk to the wrong person.
Yeah. It was to say, Kevin's not going to let anything happen. Scott Hall was a bouncer for years. He's not going to let anything happen. And who's going to mess with Triple H, especially at that time? He was, pretty ripped and everything like that. They're not going to mess with Shawn at that point. But Shawn and Scott Waltman.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I feel like with kayfabe and everything like that, I just, like we were talking about, it's a great time to be a wrestling fan because there's so much. Yeah. I mean, the stuff with Drew McIntyre, I had to remind myself, he's only saying things that he is really allowed to say.
Mhm.
Like they wouldn't let him post the just troll jobs that he was doing.
Yeah.
And I think what bugged me is like, because it was on Punk, and I'm such a big Punk mark. It was just like, but I'm like, man, that's really good. Like, you know,
Yeah.
the fact that you went on national TV to a guy who just injured his triceps, lost his Mania spot that he had been waiting forever to get, and you said, I prayed for this with a straight face, like, what the heck is going on? But it was so good.
To every like opponent, you have to have a good equal, right?
Oh, yeah.
With CM Punk, he's like, well, as long as I'm here,
Yep.
you're not going to get that title.
Yep.
And I think that's going to be one of the bigger builds. I was worried about Damian after that
Mhm.
because I felt as though McIntyre and Punk were shining.
Right.
And their storyline, and Priest was kind of held without a story.
Mhm.
So him and Rollins at Money in the Bank should be interesting, developing that storyline. But I just don't know where it goes. I would like, in terms of Damian Priest as a champion, I guess he's going to be this fighting champion.
I'm curious what they're gonna do with Money in the Bank, because like I'm kind of in the camp of let Finn win it, and then now he's around Damian, and it's like, is he gonna cash in on his friend?
Well, the Judgment Day is in a weird spot.
That's what I mean.
Right?
Yeah.
It's even like Damian Priest feels like a face.
Yep.
He doesn't feel like a heel.
Him and Rhea were getting cheered, and my problem with it was they leaned so hard into those reactions, which is fine. I'm not saying Rhea shouldn't get cheered and Damian shouldn't get cheered. Absolutely, cheer the crap out of them. Let it be known we want these guys on TV. The problem is you started turning the rest of them into the Three Stooges. Now, I'm not saying that JD McDonough has been used as anything other than a stooge, and Dominic Mysterio, while a great heat generator, he doesn't really go out there like, you're not worried about him being the muscle of the Judgment Day. But I was always frustrated with their presentation of Finn Balor. It's like when he was with Damian Priest as like the tag team of the Judgment Day, I was like, okay, cool. He's got a big dude and the smaller guy. They work great together. They're intimidating as a tag team because Finn Balor's pedigree and everything like that. And then you had this thing where it was all of a sudden Damian Priest wanted nothing to do with him because he was a face. In presentation. So he turns into the second version of JD McDonough. It's like, he's better than that. And JD McDonough is better than that. But
I think they're doing Fergal dirty by keeping him in that group. I mean, you're wasting his good years.
Yep.
It was a good idea, like replacing Edge in that. Like, I thought it was good.
Edge needed to go
taking his
for
place.
a lot of reasons. Yeah.
But like overall, I think he has so many good matches that he could have. That he's kind of limited to because he's part of the group, and like he's not in the title picture per se right now.
Right? Yeah.
I think Judgment Day ultimately is probably looking towards breaking up.
Probably, yeah. I think
that's the way to do it. Would be Finn winning.
Yeah, I'm curious
but he already lost his qualifying. So.
Right. I'm curious with the Dominic Mysterio stuff. Like once Rhea comes back and he's got to explain, why he's talking to Liv so much. And, I think that'll be interesting. And I think that'll be a really good storyline, not only for Liv, but I think it would really build towards this idea that while Rhea kind of corrupted Dom to bring him in, he took it a step further, and I feel like he'll betray Rhea in some capacity, and then that'll kind of build her back up, going back towards her belt to get it back. Because
I'm just saying, Finn Balor took the hotel card.
No, dude.
True.
I don't know.
Hotel key card.
I don't know if you follow Liv Morgan on Instagram. After this whole thing started, I started following her. Huh?
Did you see the Happy Father's Day post
to Ray?
Yeah.
To Dominic.
Oh, was it to Dominic? Yeah. It was to Ray.
Like,
no, and also like
no, somebody else did it to Ray. My bad.
All the posts that she does, Dominic likes.
Yeah,
they're playing a good thing with social media and everything. So I don't know.
Yeah, because like originally he was like, she's crazy, and it was like all Liv Morgan likes that he was showing.
Yeah. And now he's liking all her stuff too, which I thought.
I mean, like
funny.
Like even like the shot where she got attacked in the back, and he tells them to go back out, and like if you look at the angle and stuff, it's like you watched it happen. And Goku just fell over.
What was that? Just haunted?
Goku fell over.
I kept hitting the table.
Goku. Not even a spirit bombing.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things, like you look at like all the like little nuances that they've added to the story. And I'm grateful that they're invested in writing a story that is second tier in a lot of ways. Cause like Rhea's not here right now. She's injured. She's out injured.
But she's in the picture still.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They're keeping it fresh and they're reminding you that when she finally comes back, it'll be awesome.
And I think that's a big thing. Just with Judgment Day, it's interesting to see where they're at. I didn't think, like we talked about after Mania, I didn't think they'd have the means to break them up right away, but they're heading towards breaking them up, obviously, with just the title pictures within the group and how people are being utilized. I love Dom as a heel. I think he's got the most heat ever, which is funny to me within that group. You would never think.
I was going to say, he's literally done, the only thing he did was he turned on Ray.
Yep.
But the thing was, too, is when he turned on Ray, everybody wanted it to happen when it finally happened. And then they started booing him because, you know, he's the despicable heel, which tells me one of two things. Either A, he's taking lessons from the fact he's watching old Eddie tapes of how to be a really good heel despite people loving you. But also the fact that it shows how, in my mind, it shows how beloved Ray is.
Yeah.
Ray's own son, who he brought up, who granted might have a little bit of a, like, you know, my dad kind of held me down a little bit kind of vibe. They're like, whatever, kid, we love Ray. We don't care about you. Who are you? You're not Ray Mysterio. You're barely even Dominic Mysterio. It's just kind of cool that way.
Yeah, I really like his character too. I think it makes sense for what he's doing. And, he's going places. We have to talk about and break down the Wyatt Sicks.
Okay.
What a debut. My boy Gable was murdered, but he's going to be in a ladder match tonight as well. I think if I'm Gable, I'm using that. Last week I was murdered. I came back. I'm here to win money in the bank.
Right, absolutely.
I have a Band-Aid.
Right, yeah, just have like a head wrap and just
I love the effects of it. I love how they've been doing that kind of POV camera walking.
Yep.
Fantastic shot. All the characters look fantastic.
Yep.
I think the big concern is, like, are they going to wrestle with the masks on? They're going to be a reveal. Obviously, we know who they are. I think that was like my concern is, like,
I wonder
how do you stay within these characters? Like, you take the mask off, we know who they are.
Right.
How are they going to pivot that way? Or are they just going to keep doing spots where they show up, attack somebody until you get to, like, WrestleMania, SummerSlam,
maybe,
and then have a match against one of these factions?
I almost wonder if they'll do kind of what Bray did, where he was the Fiend. Like, you can have them wear the masks, but when they wrestle, it's like a different version of that. Like, you have an Uncle Howdy wrestling mask, or have I don't know what her character is.
It was super weird too, seeing Uncle Howdy's face in the picture, because it looked different on TV. Like, you could see his skin and stuff.
You could. And
I think it's just like the fog they had.
Yeah. I mean, and plus, I feel like maybe Bo had a new one designed to
leave.
You know,
that's our motto. What would Bo Dallas do?
But I think, like, with him, like with all these different guys, like, you have this kind of reinvention. You have like this kind of genuine aura around these characters that we just met. I mean, we knew Uncle Howdy. I mean, but we didn't know who these other people
and
were.
We still don't.
And we don't technically know. Yeah. I mean, I'm imagining that
you're about to talk about Nikki Cross.
Nikki Cross is probably Sister Abigail. Maybe. I don't know. I think it'd be cool if she is, or cool if she's not. It's one of those things, like, whatever they do with it, I'm already invested. Their T-shirt is sweet. Yeah. My nephew bought one of them, and I was like, well, I guess I get the other one. He's like, why? I said, well, I can't be that lame uncle that matches you, can I? And he's like, and mind you, we don't live anywhere near each other anymore, so I don't think it would really matter. But it's one of those things, like, I'm already invested. I want to know where they're going with this. And, you know, all they did was have a 5-minute segment at the end of the show.
Oh, it was so good.
But it was really good.
It was so good. I like the Gable, like, going after a top guy.
Yeah.
I love the storylines right now in WWE. I think it's good. Like, you look at Alpha Academy and Chad Gable, he's doing great work.
Yep.
And
Otis finally turning on him.
That was huge. That pop on Monday night was fantastic.
Finally snapping.
That was fantastic. And on Raw, I love that it was on Raw, because there needs to be big moments on the weekly shows, in my opinion. But with, like, Gable, I think the theory behind it with the Wyatt Sicks is they're going to go against people who went against their own.
Makes sense.
So, like, Chad Gable went against the Alpha Academy. So who's next in line to get attacked? You know, you look at maybe Jey Uso.
Yeah.
You know, he went against the Bloodline.
They show an interview of him.
I saw that one.
He was saying, like, you know, as far as the Fireflies, I'll give him back. I was none of that beef.
Nice. But, like, that's a theory, is to go against who has gone against their own. Seth Rollins is supposedly a target.
I mean, he betrayed the Shield.
Yeah.
I mean, he technically betrayed Triple H and all them too. I mean, he's had a long history of turning against people who were for him and everything like that. So I think with them, I just hope I'm grateful for the fact that we kind of had this hype, but we didn't know what to expect. And that
was so well done.
And that's kind of the thing, like, I always appreciated with Bray when he was still around, was you had this idea, but he knew enough to not give you too much. Because then you start formulating all these different things in your head, and then it's never going to match when it comes into play. And granted, their booking of the Fiend, whereas he lost the Hell in a Cell via, they called the match, it was a no contest, like whatever. And then when he lost to Goldberg in Saudi and stuff, it's just like, and Bray, they're like, oh, Bray got a lot of backstage, like, good thumbs up for that. They were really grateful. It's like, because he understands business, right? And he understands that, he did the job. Whereas Goldberg, he
was actually like mad about the character work though. Like, was like, you're ruining this. Like,
I mean, you had this guy who should have been unbeatable.
Goldberg.
He should,
it's like puts him over, but Goldberg was unwilling to do that.
I don't want to. I'm the good guy. I don't want to lose to the. It's like, dude, it's a freaking wrestling show.
And you're 50.
This is a dude who literally called AEW too cheesy.
Yeah,
he's like, AEW's too cheesy, bro. You came back at 50 and headbutted a door so hard you concussed yourself and went out and did a rambling promo that made no sense. You're also the same guy that when Drew McIntyre's segment where he was downing a lot of like previous champions got cut, you still went out and cut a promo on him like he said all these things. It's like, you're cheesy. like you're past your prime.
One trick pony.
Yeah, I mean, you're in great shape for your age, absolutely, but calm down. Like, it just there's a time where that aura is dead. It reminds me of, it's kind of the same line of when Shawn, when he was cutting the promo on Hogan when they fought at SummerSlam, he goes, you've been living off a reputation for the last 30 years. Yeah. That's what Goldberg feels like now. And like, I love how Goldberg is like he's saying, oh, Brett needs to just get over it. Like, dude, you ended his career with a kick to his head.
Insane.
He had a stroke because of that injury.
Yeah.
I think he can be as mad as he wants, as long as he wants. Do I think Brett should let it go? Probably, because he's old and it doesn't need that, stress in his life. But at the same time, guy ends my
the
career.
Same guy that punched Vince McMahon in the face. He's not gonna let it go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, this is a dude who took wrestling way too seriously, and I love him for it. But at the same time, it's like, man, that guy thinks this is like this. It's very reminiscent of Eddie Kingston now. It's like, does Eddie Kingston know this isn't real? Like, does he know this is wrestling? Because like, and that's what I like about him though, is he comes out and he cuts a promo, and you're like, is he fake? Is this fake, or does he think this is fake? Is he in the room with us right now? Kind of vibe like that. And that's what I like about Eddie Kingston. But I just feel like there's always that one in every generation who takes it just a smidge too far. And I feel like with Goldberg and then like, the Fiend stuff and everything like that, it was bad booking it was short-sighted booking.
Yeah, absolutely.
You wanted this pop. And I honestly feel the reason why the Fiend didn't get booked properly, big part of it, Vince didn't understand it.
And I think that's like a testament to Bray's character work. He's ahead of his time.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of the way he was thinking and the character work he wanted to do. Because it's very reminiscent of old wrestling.
Oh, absolutely.
And it doesn't really necessarily work in today's age, but it does work.
Yep.
As we've come to find out, people like those characters.
Look at the Firefly House of Fun match.
Firefly Fun match.
The Fun House. Firefly Fun House match. Wow, yeah.
We can't even get it right. It's a Monday.
But I mean, that was a non-match. I mean, that was literally a non-match.
It's fantastic.
Of Cena going through all these different things, and then he loses in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
But everybody was talking about it for weeks. Like,
you know who wrote that?
It was Cena.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
I just learned this recently that he wrote it. It's the only match he's ever written. From start to finish.
Yeah.
Was a Firefly Funhouse match.
And the fact that Bray was willing to just let's do it. And like, you watch that documentary where Bray cuts a promo or whatever, and there's like, let's run it back because I don't like that. Like, let's change that. Just he had his heart and soul in his character,
and it becomes hard to work with too. So there's like mixed reviews on Bray. People love Bray for his creativity.
Bruce Pritchard talks about it, like, he was a little hard to work with. It's like, okay, brother,
but he's passionate about it and he wants to make it work, and it's his vision. But it's not at the same time. Now I feel like in terms of like creative, with like Triple H being hands off, kind of let you do your own thing. Like, we have these major story points, but do your thing,
right? Yeah.
And you can kind of see some people not shine as well. No offense to Damian Priest. I think he has some mic work to work on.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too, is like, if you really wanted Damian Priest to not have to worry about his mic work, either have him work on it, or put somebody with him who can talk.
Yep.
You know, not and then
I think all the great champions go through it. Like Roman went through it.
Yeah.
For a long time.
You have these guys who, like, once they find it and they get it, it's done. It's good. Like, you look at Jon Moxley in WWE as Dean Ambrose.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost there. He teetered on it for so many years of just this edge of greatness, and he couldn't quite get it. And then he went to AEW, became Jon Moxley again, and he crushes it. You got Stone Cold Steve Austin, who was really great on the mic, but maybe didn't really get the chances he wanted in WCW. ECW was like the first time you really ever saw him do like promos where you're like, holy crap. And then he comes to WWE and he's the ringmaster.
Yeah. He's like, I didn't even know what that meant.
Yeah. He's like, what is that? And then like DiBiase is your mouthpiece. Granted, great mouthpiece. Ted DiBiase can talk. But when you let Austin talk and be himself and turn himself up to that 11th level, there was no one better for years. I mean, this guy.
I love the Austin 316 just on the whim.
Yeah.
Wrote it in the back. He was late for his flight.
Yeah.
Came in and they're like, you have to cut a promo. What's Jake talking about? They're like, some Bible stuff.
Oh,
all right.
Okay. And then, yeah. I mean, like that. And then like, just like all this different stuff. Like my favorite.
I think he said he went up to bat twice and he hit 2 grand slams.
Yeah. My favorite one will always be the story that Rock told. Rock said, they were jawing at each other in the center of the ring. He goes, all right, you ready? He goes, you're going to take the most electrifying move in all of entertainment. The people's up. And he's like, really? That's stupid crap. And just like, he didn't want to do it, but he just, he had such a good relationship with The Rock. And like, you look at old video from 19 when they wrestled at Safeco Field in Seattle, and just the friendship that they had. Like Stone Cold said, he goes, in this business, you get a lot of acquaintances. You don't get a lot of friends. He goes, The Rock is my friend. Yeah. And that's so out of character for a guy who, a lot of guys in those day and age, that they protected their character so much. Like they had to live that lifestyle no matter Taker, what it was. Especially. Yeah. And then Taker, Rock, Stone Cold, all those guys, they lived and breathed these characters. So for him to still be in that mindset, but also be like, The Rock is my friend, after they just tore the house down for one of the like 4 quote unquote main events. And I always say quote unquote because there's one main event, it's the last match. It's always the last match. It doesn't matter. And
that's why I give a lot of prop to like MJF, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
He's like very much like an old school 90s attitude era wrestler in the sense that he's kind of that guy.
Yep.
He's not really that guy, but he is that guy all the time, whether it be signings or whatever. There's glimpses where he's a nice guy, kind of breaking his character. But
with MJF, I think it was a cool learning process because he picked it up so quick.
Yeah.
Because you believe him as this swarmy, snarky, I'm better than you because I'm rich vibe. But then you see him like do things that maybe cross the line, like when he threw the drink in that kid's face and that kid didn't know.
Yeah.
That's crossing a line that maybe you, especially now, probably shouldn't do. Back in the 50s, probably would have been no big. I mean, it would have been a big deal. Like Dad probably would have tried.
How many times do you see people rip up signs?
Right? Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and for most wrestling fans, it's like, oh, that kid must have been a plan. I bet that kid loved that. And it's just like, no, that kid didn't know that was going to happen. So, but I mean, like you look at all his work where he goes out and you believe everything he says.
Yeah.
Whether it's ridiculous or
that comeback. And all in, right? Was the last one or all out?
Shoot.
Whatever. Dynasty. No, Dynasty.
It was double or nothing.
They got
man, AEW and those names.
I know.
I can't keep.
It's hard to keep up. Double gambling. All gambling related.
Well, there's what is it? It's not Revolution. What is
they take after their
full
owner,
gear, gambling. Yeah, Full Gear, Double or Nothing, All In, All Out.
And the last one's Cocaine Blues.
Cocaine Blues. No, that's Tony Khan on a Sunday when he can't call his dealer. No, but it's one of those things. Like when he came back, watching that video where they just show like the first person view, grabbing the ring, checking the dog collar, like all these different callbacks to when he won matches, whether it was heelish or whatever. The fact that he still acknowledges that CM Punk was a big part of the evolution of the MJF character, and like just the stuff with Adam Cole and like you believed when Cole turned on him that MJF just couldn't believe, like he didn't want to believe it. Like he saw it coming, but he didn't want to believe it. And then he comes back and he hugs him and you're thinking like, oh man. And then he just kicks him as hard as he can. And like, like not even a, I respect MJF as a wrestler. I'm not a person cheering for MJF just because that's who I am. But I respect the heck out of his character and his work and everything, and I respect him as a wrestler. But to see him like get that little bit of revenge on Cole was just so cathartic as a wrestling fan. Like, yes, finally, you know, and just to see him come back jacked and be like, I'm not going anywhere.
Are they pushing that story at all?
They have to kind of mellow it out a little bit because Cole's still not cleared. Cole's ankle's still messed up. But
I think they could still like push it.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like
he's still dealing with like kind of like the catharsis of all the crap he did before he got there.
Yeah.
And like, you know, people are pointing out stuff to him and things like that. So I think they'll do the one thing that I give AEW is like we talked about before, how they have a lot of matches where it's just about the match. And that's kind of their MO for a lot of things. But when they do tell a story and they tell it right, it's fantastic. It's really good. So I feel like with Cole and MJF, they're going to knock it out of the park whenever they get that payoff.
And I feel like just storytelling in WWE's been good. And like when we talk about like attitude, I feel like even the lower level characters have their moments.
Yeah.
They're getting part of a story. Like Chad Gable, for whatever reason, is my guy.
Yeah,
I just love his in-ring ability. But I feel like he's part of a major storyline. The crowd's behind it.
Yeah, I mean, with Chad Gable too, it's so great to see him bounce back from essentially the watering down by Vince of this character, this guy who was a Olympic athlete who didn't go to who didn't win a medal or anything like that, but has that pedigree. And then because he's short, you think it's funny to call him Shorty G. It's like
he took everything though and owned it.
But and like that's the payoff from that we're out of the Vince era is they take everything and they owned it and they ran with it and now they're getting rewarded for it. Because you didn't see that a lot in the Vince era. There was always that kind of I'll owe you one, and then it's like you owe me 6. I've got none. I'm out of here. Like, you know,
they're supposed to replace him today with Dragunov for the match because of what happened with the Wyatt Sicks.
Right.
I hope they don't. I hope he just says, "Hey, I got murdered last week.
I got murdered,
get that
but I'm
briefcase."
Gets hit in the head once and just in that spot. And just
it's just a
back
comment.
down. You're like, oh.
He's like Malachi Black with his
right.
eye.
Yeah. But like, I feel like that's another guy who I feel like kind of suffers from the AEW booking is Malachi Black. Malachi Black is a very creative person. He commits to his character. He believes in what he's doing. He brought Buddy Murphy, or his Buddy Matthews now, excuse me. He brought Brody King in, and you believe this faction, in my mind, should not lose. I mean, these guys are ridiculous. And then you still have them lose matches. And it's like, I get it. It's wrestling, whatever. Mm-hmm. But then like they kind of get lost in the shuffle. So you don't really know what's going on. Like his whole thing with Edge, and a lot of people were like, Edge should have lost. And I mean, for storyline wise, hindsight, sure. But I was curious to see with Edge winning, where do they go now?
Right.
Because now he's supposed to be running House of Black. Okay, what does he do? Does he become corrupted, or does he bring them up with him? And then, like, you know, what does Malachi Black do now that he doesn't have his guys, you know, and everything like that?
I was just upset we didn't get Edge and Christian versus the Hardy Boys. And
yeah, I mean, I admit, I feel like they could have made that happen, but they didn't. Actually, speaking of Christian specifically,
great work, doing
fantastic work. My problem with the Christian storyline is this: the one part that does make no absolute sense to me is Luchasaurus, only because we were at the Collision when Luchasaurus touched the title. It was the first time since he had been TNT champion, that he first touched the belt. Everybody was going insane, like, just kick Christian in the face. No one cares anymore. Just do it. And he didn't do it. There has been no hint of a payoff for that. Mm-hmm. And it's like, so are we just supposed to forget that Luchasaurus really doesn't like what Christian does, but he puts up with it for whatever reason? And like, I just felt like we didn't really get a payoff for that. Yeah. And like, I'm just a little bummed by that. And granted, you know, there's thousands of storylines that kind of got washed to the side in every wrestling promotion across the world. I just feel like that one I was particularly invested in, only did not get a payoff later. It was a bummer. So.
I'm just like, still thinking about the Wyatt Sicks.
Oh yeah. I mean, you're right. I'm curious how it's gonna work, but they did say that with the amount of people, like the people who were gone, the people who left prior to that, was all significant. So whatever they're doing is gonna encompass a lot of the roster.
Well, think about like Braun Strowman, who doesn't really have he's a big SOB. That's his calling card right now. I think he'd be obviously a great addition to that faction. And it'd be interesting to do, like, I liked the original Wyatt family.
Yeah.
And they kind of had this, like, recruiting,
Yeah.
join us.
Yeah.
Like, it was generalized, but then you got, like, Daniel Bryan was the big one, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But I think they're going to add to the Wyatt Sicks.
I hope so.
And see
Yeah,
where
because
it
I thought
goes.
there were gonna be 6.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's 6.
We counted
there's
that
5.
We did a whole 10-minute segment about counting that, and we couldn't
wait,
get to
what?
6 for some reason.
Yeah, there only ended up being 5.
No, wait a minute. There's only 5. That doesn't make sense. But no,
Alexa Bliss is probably coming back at some point.
I could
I'd
see
assume.
Bliss have 2 women. Have them.
Yeah.
You know, the one thing that I'm kind of curious about is, do you put belts on them at any point?
I don't think you do.
Because look at what it did with the Fiend. It kind of ruined his character.
And I think that I think the ideal function of this faction would be to not have any titles, to wreak as much havoc as possible. They say, hey, we don't care about your titles.
Yep.
We're here to destroy your foundation of everything you believe.
Yep.
We're just a mess over here. It's been a month.
Playing with things. No, I think you're right, though. I think that would be a good idea. Just because, I mean, I loved watching Bray win the title, both like when he did. I didn't care that he was the Fiend and the Universal Champion. That weird Fiend title was a bit much to me. But I feel like with this, when you put a title on them, eventually you know they have to lose.
Yeah.
Whereas with this, they could just come in, like you said, wreak havoc and, destroy everything. And then finally maybe make your champion be like, I'm going to vanquish
Get rid of him.
these people. Like
Ultimate baby face.
have Cody it doesn't even have to be Cody, but I'm just using Cody as an example because he's.
I would use Chad Gable. The guy that they shot in the head comes back from the dead to take him out.
Zombie chicken. No, but I mean, it's just one of those things.
They did the zombie. Remember when they did the zombie?
Yeah,
and
and he got the crap kicked out of him by Sandman. You know why they did that, right? that was a stipulation by Sci-Fi for them to have ECW on their TV show. They had to have sci-fi elements in their show.
Yeah.
So that's why they had the zombie who was just designed there to get the crap kicked out of him. It was
Didn't they just recently do a promo one like a couple years ago, like 5 years ago? I thought they did one with like Sami Zayn or something, where they like came in.
I don't
like Dave Bautista's movie.
Oh, that but that
House
was
of a Thousand Corpses.
Yeah, no. It was that Army of the Dead movie.
Yeah, it was close.
But not really. But
Rob Zombie, baby.
Rob Zombie, Zack Snyder.
They're like the same person.
One of the zombie guys.
Yeah, one of them dudes.
I'm sure there'll be an extended cut.
5.5 hours. 2 bathroom breaks sewn in there. No, but like I feel like with the Wyatt Sicks, I'm curious to see where it goes. I'm definitely I haven't been hyped for a new debut in a long time, and I feel like that'll be cool. I feel like with where we are right now,
the characters look fantastic.
Yeah.
Too.
And I feel like with where they are right now, they have a lot of build to SummerSlam, which is coming at the end of August. And then, probably the end of August. I don't remember the exact date now. And then you have the potential for all of that. Curious to see them kind of get a big win, if they're even there. I mean, if they're there in a match capacity.
I think it'd be cool. And I guess I just thought of this now, is like if they went after Damian Priest.
Okay.
And then you got the Judgment Day.
Mm-hmm.
And the Judgment Day was supposed to be like this supernatural, like the original idea.
Dark factions.
Yeah. And I think like overtaking them, you have multiple kind of targets. Yeah. You have a good mix of people.
You could write a lot of good story arcs
and that's what
into
gets
that.
Tough. It's like, which one do they go after?
Well, I mean, we'll stick with the Judgment Day for a minute. You got the Judgment Day. Uh-oh, what happened?
I don't know.
This is Judgment Day. They heard us. Supernatural. There's no coincidence there, folks. If you hear me, we're still talking live.
If you hear me, please help me.
The Brood's coming. Gangrel in his face. Luckily, he's got a bad hip. Speaking of
Gangrel, so the discourse around the Gangrel cameo.
Oh, we just happened to be talking about the paranormal when it happened.
Right, yeah.
Goku fell over. Look at that.
That would have been bad.
Another ghost.
I think it's the air filter that's blinking over there. It's possessed. It's coming for all of us.
It's a ghost of Rodney Dangerfield in there. Get no respect. No respect. We are now an audio podcast.
Right.
It's the Wyatt Sicks.
I don't know.
I just like to watch you mess up. Hey, we're back.
Oh, yeah. Diet Coke. But getting back to the Gangrel,
that's what we're talking about.
All right, so people have pointed out in that discourse, well, it was cool to see Gangrel. People seem to forget that the Brood was not effective as a group.
That's true.
They got beat a lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, and they were eventually absorbed into the
Ministry of Darkness.
Ministry, and then Edge turned on them when they were beating up Christian in front of him and all this stuff. So I think like with this kind of supernatural as to it, I feel like the Judgment Day could really get over the Wyatt Sicks in a lot of ways, but I almost want to see everybody in the Wyatt Sicks involved in some way. I want to see Nikki Cross show up and mess with like JD,
and I think it'd be a long build.
Yeah,
kind of like
make it a SummerSlam build
when
like,
Wyatt was doing the puppets in the background of shots.
Yep, yeah, do something like that. I'm definitely curious to see where Bo goes with it, just because it's not Bray, it's Bo, and you know he has his own creative vision, I'm sure. And I mean, like he said, like they did a lot of talking about these characters and stuff. So I'm sure he has a pretty good idea of what he wants to do. But I'm curious who's all in the kitchen with him as far as cooking this thing up, because it's like I'm sure Dexter Loomis and all those guys are gonna have some.
I really like Gacy's vision on it. I think that's a good person to have if you're gonna write something like that.
Absolutely.
Just because of the work he was doing in NXT. I mean, it's kind of similar to the Wyatt family in terms of what he was doing.
I'm curious to see what they do with it. And like I said, this is the first debut in a long time that I've just been like, oh, I can't wait
and
to
the
see
crazy part is the hard part is going to be the wrestling. The storytelling is not going to be the problem. It's going to be like, how do we get these characters in the ring?
Yeah, I'm curious. And
do we do cinematic matches?
But I have to imagine if they let them debut on TV, they've already got that figured out.
And I'm sure. And I just don't think they can wrestle with those masks on.
No. I mean, you look at the only mask that seemed feasible was probably Nikki Cross's.
Yeah.
Because, well, maybe Dexter Loomis's wasn't. Wait, which one was?
Was he the gas mask?
Yeah.
Or was he the dreaded guy sitting up top?
No, that was Gacy, I thought.
Okay.
I think. I could be wrong. I could be completely
I know
wrong.
which one was Rowan.
Yeah. That's about it. Yeah. He's the only one that I really knew besides Nikki. And obviously Bo. But it'll be interesting to see. I really like you were saying, how it feels like everybody kind of has a storyline, even though it's not like here. There's a lot of like mid-card stuff and everything. And it's a good time to be a wrestling fan. And I think that's kind of where I want to see AEW kind of polish it a little bit. Is we have your main story. We know that the Elite is trying to take over AEW, and granted, we've seen these takeover storylines 1,000 times, and they've done some different stuff. I'm not discrediting that, but I want to see what they do with kind of their lower tier story arcs and stuff like that. Like you had Chris Statlander turn on Orange Cassidy and side with Trent Beretta. You have the Don Callis family mad at Will Ospreay because he says he doesn't need the Don Callis family. I want to see, my biggest thing, and I will say this till I'm blue in the face, but
blue in the face, like the blue meanie.
I want to see. Well, he wasn't blue in the face.
You don't know that after JBL.
I want to see Penta and Phoenix kind of soar to a different level.
Big thing I just thought of: Ricochet.
Yep,
leaving.
He'll wherever.
Oh, talk about a storyline. Braun Breaker.
Yep,
is looking fantastic.
Yep,
as an unstoppable force.
Yep.
I legitimately thought Ricochet was hurt. Like he threw him against that semi and he hit really hard.
Yeah.
I know obviously it was a planned
thing,
but literally he hit hard.
I mean, look at how hard freaking Braun runs those ropes, man. I mean, he moves the dang ring. I mean, come on. But
you can hear the crowd barking too. I love it.
Right. I am curious to see what Ricochet does, because definitely a guy who was not utilized correctly even in NXT, and that's not a knock at Triple H. He was great as like North American champion and everything like that. That guy should have been your NXT champion for like a year.
Yeah,
that guy should. There's a lot of different things. And I know everybody always has their guy that's like, this guy should be world champion for the next 6 years or whatever.
Well, I think it's gonna be tough too, because like you look at Andrade and you look at Aleister Black, and you thought they'd go to AEW and be world champions, and,
right?
Be the stars of the show. But they kind of just fall into that spot with, they have a good match.
Yep.
Not really story developed. And I think when you're doing character work, especially with a guy like Ricochet who needs to build character, I don't necessarily think AEW is going to be a spot for him.
I want to see him end up in TNA. I really do.
And I don't think you will because of that relationship with WWE.
I mean, it's possible. I mean, I don't know, because I mean, I heard the rumor that he wants to go to Japan for a little bit.
I think Japan would be great for him.
The thing was, the best presentation of character wasn't even Ricochet for me. It was always when he was Prince Puma and Lucha Underground.
Yeah.
And even then, that didn't really show a lot for him. It was kind of more about the chase and everything like that. And like, this is your guy. And then Penta comes out and takes it from him. And it showed that, Vampiro couldn't be trusted and all this other stuff. It was like the great story about Prince Puma before he left Lucha Underground wasn't even about Prince Puma. It was about Penta. It was about Vampiro. So I'm curious to see what he does, because this is a guy who can put on a phenomenal match with a broom. Yeah, but I want to see what else he can bring to the table.
Well, and Ospreay's been giving him credit. Like they're definitely trying to give him to AEW. I think AEW makes sense. Yeah, I think that's where he's going.
I mean, and who knows? They could prove us wrong with what he does. I mean, put him in, have him come in, have him win the international championship for a minute, have him make that title even cooler than when Orange Cassidy had
I just have to go by history.
With
AEW, and as unfortunate, because I think Andrade, and I don't even know if WWE is going to use Andrade, right? But they're putting him in the right spots right now. Yeah. Like literally, he comes out to no music.
Yeah.
The last episode, and it's like, what?
Yeah.
Andrade.
It's like, you look at like Andrade when he came into AEW and they had him come out with Vicky Guerrero, and it just felt kind of really mashed together at the last second. It's like, what is this? And then he never really got, like, he had the whole story arc with Matt Hardy where he basically bought him out from his own company, all this stuff. It felt like they didn't know what to do with him.
He's so talented.
And then he goes to WWE and it still feels kind of the same way. It's like, what are you guys doing with this guy? Well, he's Andrade. Yeah, we know he can wrestle. He's shown that 1,000 times over. What can he do else? What else can he do?
He did good in that triple threat match for qualified. Like, he looked fantastic. Yeah. He put him over. But like, he didn't come out to any music. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Now in the ring, Andrade.
Yeah, I've always felt raw about already in the ring. It's like, well, and that's over. Like it just,
I didn't think he was gonna win.
Yeah.
And then he won, and I was like, oh.
Yeah. So I feel like now that he's back and Triple H can kind of incorporate him into plans, I'm hoping within the next year we'll see him do something.
This Money in the Bank is gonna be one of the best Money in the Bank matches for the men.
Yeah.
And I think it's gonna be one of the most pivotal who wins.
Yeah.
Because there's so many big players in it.
Yep.
Where it could go.
Yep.
Obviously, I think Jey Uso's kind of the guy they want to push.
Probably.
But, depending on who else qualifies, it's probably Bronson Reed tonight, I would think, is going to be in there. I really want Gable still.
How many people are going to be in the...
6.
Is it only 6? I couldn't remember.
There's going to be 6 total. Okay.
I'm curious. I definitely am excited.
Who's all qualified? They got Jay,
Andrade, and then... I can't remember now.
Yeah, it's just slipping in my mind too.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm curious to see where they go with it. I'm excited for like the lower pay-per-views. Like, even if I don't watch them the day of, I still want to watch them.
International's been great.
Yeah, I'm loving the international stuff. Do that.
Crowd is awesome.
I mean, you can, like, that's the thing. Like, I think that's why AEW was so apt to go back to Wembley already. Like, they announced it a year ahead of time. It's like, because they had such phenomenal success.
Yeah.
I mean, they drew 1 million people. I mean, it's ridiculous. I want to see them do more. And I like that. I like when they go into another market and have it make sense all across the board. Like, they could have gone to Scotland and just done their own thing. It could have been a glorified house show. But no, they made it a pay-per-view, and they're like, McIntyre's going to win, and then CM Punk screws him.
Yeah.
And
a lot of people didn't like that angle.
There's that dude in the crowd who's just cussing it out and just stuff like that, and that's what you got to do. I mean, but if you look at WWE's track record in general, they have a lovely history of screwing over the home country guy, in their own country. British Bulldog.
I was so convinced he was going to win. Like, I thought Punk would interfere.
Yeah.
But I thought McIntyre was going to win. I thought he was going to get his moment.
Right.
In his home crowd.
Right.
But I think also too, it's a good thing because, as I said, I thought Damian Priest was going to be kind of transitional champion. I still feel like he's kind of lost in the shuffle. Yeah. Personally, I don't think he has like a story arc where, Drew McIntyre and CM Punk could run to Mania.
Right.
Right. That's one that could last. Whereas like you put him in against Seth Rollins, that's like a one and done. Yeah. I would think, unless Seth wins.
And that's when Seth came back, that was my biggest concern. I was like, oh, do not put it back on
But if we look at Wyatt Sicks, maybe they interfere in that match, Money in the Bank, that keeps Damian Priest with the title, and then you run an angle with Seth Rollins and the Wyatt Sicks.
Yeah.
But I really don't know wrestling wise how that works out, like we talked about.
Yeah. It's just,
is Carlito in the picture of the
Judgment Day?
Yeah.
No, I mean like the the Money in the Bank. Is he gonna fight for a spot?
I don't think he's qualifying. I don't think he's in a match.
The only
right
reason
yet.
why I ask, is because if they somehow have another show in Puerto Rico,
Carlito versus Priest.
Carlito versus Priest will blow everybody's minds.
And I don't think they'd go that route just because with like Money in the Bank, like he could cash in probably around Mania.
You
So
can cash in whenever, but yeah, like
technically
I don't think they will
can
make it. They will make whoever wins wait again that long.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
honestly
it's fun
think
and all, but I feel like
Yeah.
they might
that'd be
not do it every
awesome.
year.
Carlito's looked good the last couple weeks too, just in terms of his storyline and his presence within the New Day, or not the New Day, Judgment Day.
Yeah,
Be cool if he's in the New Day.
it will be great though. That will sell like they sold Backlash.
I don't think you're gonna have any trouble in Puerto Rico at all, though.
No,
regardless
not with
of who they put
anything
out
they
there.
do. Yeah, but at least like if they do that match, because Carlito hasn't won.
Oh, they could do like
a big title at WWE,
and that's I don't think they do that. Like, unfortunately,
no, I mean even if he doesn't win,
if he was in the match, that'd be cool. Like Carlito versus Priest.
Okay,
and then
so
Priest retains.
Carmelo Hayes is currently.
Yeah, Carmelo Hayes. Like that guy could definitely win.
Yeah.
I do think that'd be cool though. Carlito versus Priest.
Because at least he.
Because do you think they do another pay-per-view there? Like,
well,
which one could they do? Like,
just because they like how they have him kind of coming into the Judgment Day, right? One has to leave eventually.
Yeah.
So that might be he might just trick Priest out to kick him off now that he might do.
I just want his old music back.
Carlito?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I spit in the face of people who don't want to be cool.
Looks like LA Knight is set to go against Santos Escobar and Logan Paul.
So that's LA Knights.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. Maybe Logan though. They have a good angle going.
I could see Santos doing it. Give him something to do.
Yeah, Santos isn't bad. I mean, their big one. Like that's a good 3, and then Bronson Reed.
As long as they
Braun
take it from
Strowman
Logan,
and
it should
Chad
be fine.
Gable. What's that?
As long as either of them take it from Logan.
Yeah, I mean, I like Logan as a performer. I think he's doing some good work.
Yeah, but I don't think that he should have a belt.
He's been fighting though. He's been on every episode of SmackDown, and
yeah, but I don't know. I don't know. I've always been weird about people who aren't full time being title holders.
Right.
I think it's building up the middle titles though. Like if you look 5 years ago, Intercontinental Championship was nothing. Gunther built that up.
Oh yeah.
And now Sami Zayn holds that.
Yep.
You look at the United States title, maybe a more reputable title.
Even LA Knight said that he could cash in on that. I was like, why would you do that?
I mean,
storyline.
I mean, what's his face? Otis was gonna cash in on the tag titles.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like you have a world title shot and you went for that.
Yeah.
I never understood that part of it.
Never, yeah.
Let's just make it the world title and
that should be guaranteed.
Yeah, that
at Mania or before
or whenever you want. Yeah, I mean,
usually they do Mania now.
Yeah,
it's like the common one.
So,
but yeah, I'd like to see who wins that match. That's always a good one. That's like one of my favorite pay-per-views or premium live events. Sorry,
premium live event.
With Money in the Bank, it's like Money in the Bank and Royal Rumble are like my 2 favorites.
I used to like
TLC, but there's not less TLNC involved.
Royal Rumble is definitely
their own.
Royal Rumble is definitely one of my favorite pay-per-views. Period. Just in general, it's always fun. I was worried with Money in the Bank that it would get watered down being its own pay-per-view, kind of like how Hell in a Cell did and how Elimination Chamber has.
Yeah.
It's like you had these great ideas that should only be used to settle. Like the first Elimination Chamber made sense because Triple H had a stranglehold on the title. You could never get a fair shot on the guy. So it's like,
I was there.
Yeah. So it's like
you went to that?
You went to the first one?
No.
Yeah.
Or did you go to New Year's Revolution in
New Year's Revolution?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm talking about the first one at Survivor Series with Triple H, Shawn Michaels return.
But wasn't that the first?
No. New Year's Revolution was kind of the first pay-per-view centered. Well, I don't know how to. That was the first pay-per-view New Year's Revolution. But that was the first time we saw the cash in the Money in the Bank with Edge on Cena. And that was the first time we saw a guy go coast to coast because Cena went start to finish. He started the match against Kurt Angle and ended it when he beat Masters and Carlito, I think. And then they lifted the cage up and they were handing Cena the belt, and Vince comes out, no one's going anywhere, and they took the belt away from Cena, and Edge came out and was cashing in and speared him. Cena kicked out because, of course, he did, and then he speared him again, and he won the title. That was in Puerto Rico. That was like the first like big Puerto Rican pay-per-view I think they did. And
New Year's Revolution was the first one.
Yeah. Well, for the pay-per-view, not for the Elimination Chamber though.
Elimination was that had Goldberg in it too?
That was SummerSlam. That was the third one, second or third.
That
one.
was the one where he broke the.
But I
thing.
just have this vague memory that they were announcing this like big cage match, and they were doing it around.
Well, I'm sure at Puerto Rico.
Well, no, I'm saying like
chamber.
The first Elimination Chamber they ever did.
What?
I thought it was in New Year's Revolution.
No,
they
that
did
was
one before.
There was the first one was Survivor Series, Madison Square Garden. Wait, no. Was it Madison Square Garden? Yep, Madison Square Garden. It was Shawn Michaels had just Shawn Michaels had just returned to the company. So it was Shawn Michaels, Triple H was World Heavyweight Champion. Kane, Booker T, RVD, and Chris Jericho.
That's fantastic.
And RVD jumped off the top of the pod,
Yeah.
did the 5-star on the Triple H, kneed him in the throat, broke it, crushed his trachea. Triple H passed out multiple times during the match, continued. Kane went on a tear, didn't eliminate anybody. I think Booker T was the first one eliminated. And then Shawn, it was the final three was Shawn, Jericho, and Triple H. Triple H was basically unconscious in the walls. Shawn came in, sweet chin music on. Jericho pins him. Him and Triple H go at it for a minute. He gets the hit. JR goes nuts at the end. Shawn Michaels, confetti's raining down. Michaels won the title, held it for a month, and dropped it back to Triple H because that was the way back then. But yeah, that was the first one.
Yeah, no, I see. It was like it's.
You know all the state capitals?
I probably could name them. Yeah,
it was in 2002, which is way back before I started watching.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
That's the thing is like New Year's Revolution was like the first. That New Year's Revolution was the first pay-per-view of that kind. They did the first New Year's Revolution in Puerto Rico. It was a big deal because they did the Elimination Chamber. Cena was on his tear at the time.
It is so gimmicky now. It's like,
it's like
I like the last cool thing was Jeff Hardy climbed it, and
I like the improvements that they made to it. It's easier to see into. Yeah. It's cooler looking, but it feels very video game-esque now.
Yeah.
And back when it was first made, it looked like
it doesn't look like it's hard to do the things they want.
Yeah, it looked mean back in the day.
It was rugged.
Yeah, like, now it's just kind of like,
They definitely softened it up.
Yeah,
which makes sense.
Which makes sense. Yeah. You don't want your guys to
your people.
Yeah. But yeah, no,
we'll see though in the new improved era. I mean, people are taking more high risks, maybe.
True. Yeah, I'm definitely curious to see like where the Wyatt Sicks goes, where they do with the Judgment Day, what they do with the Judgment Day. How do you build this story?
Even if it is the Judgment Day.
How do you build this story with Priest and Seth Rollins now? Because where people
I don't see like it's again like one off.
Yeah. And like I think that's kind of the problem is they have to do something to where
I think if I was WWE, I'd have either like Drew or CM Punk kind of come down for that. Like if you had Drew come out during that match,
I could see Drew.
That kind of is like, hey, like you're not really the champ, and he's kind of involved in that. And then you do like a triple threat at like SummerSlam.
Yeah.
Well, they haven't resolved that part where Seth was so upset that CM Punk was back. So
there's a lot of angles.
So it will be great if
that's a WrestleMania line.
That's a Mania match.
It will be sad for me to see Priest lose, but Seth winning back the title and then a match with CM Punk.
I don't think they're gonna do that. I think honestly they have so much good heat with McIntyre and CM Punk.
That story. But that's the thing. Like Seth,
and that's where it gets tough.
Yeah, when they have that match, Drew is gonna come and.
I think you ride Priest out to SummerSlam.
At least I say Priest loses at SummerSlam. I don't care. I don't know who.
Yeah,
but I'm
kind of SummerSlam cash.
New era is full of surprises. So
right, true.
We'll see.
and the funny thing is like getting kind of with the Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, CM Punk situation. It's interesting to think that when they came back, that's the match everybody wanted to see was Rollins and Punk finally because they had been talking. They had gone back and I should say Rollins tried to go back and forth with Punk. Punk told him that. Quit paying attention to his Twitter and work on his wrestling and stuff like that. And then, so you had this like built-in story that everybody was really hyped. But the stuff with him and McIntyre is just
so
gold.
good.
It's like you cannot not.
And I
pull
don't
this
even
off.
know if Punk can work with McIntyre like at his age. And like
Well, I mean,
he could do things, but I don't. Do you think he could hit a GTS on McIntyre?
he hit one on Wardlow.
I guess so.
I mean, I
thought his tricep might go. You know?
He's working out.
I think
He was a lot better than AEW. Looks crazy.
well, like the thing was too with like AEW is like I don't know what happened there, but he just kept getting hurt.
Yeah.
And I understand you're old. You haven't wrestled in 7 years. I mean,
Yeah,
of course you're gonna get hurt. This is a tough business that you're in. But it just felt it was such a bummer because it's like, dude, this guy could have the run of all runs with this belt, and he didn't. I mean, but then you think about all the time, like everybody always talks about, like, oh, he was injured the entire time. Do you remember the dog collar match with him and MJF? It was one of the best matches in that era.
Mhm.
Not to mention all the times that he put MJF over as like this dastardly heel, like when MJF had that piece of like tape and choked him out with the sleeper hold, and he was actually choking him underneath it.
Oh wow.
And then he did it to Samoa Joe too. I mean, it's one of those things. Like, I mean, he, for heaven's sake, CM Punk let him beat him twice in Chicago in the same night,
Yeah.
the same match. You know, pretty much.
Put him over big time.
Yeah. So,
You
yeah,
mentioned Samoa Joe. What do you think about the Samoans are joining now?
I think
On the bloodline.
The Bloodline.
I think
yeah.
the new Bloodline stuff is cool. I'm curious to see where it goes,
It's
though.
crazy to me. This is like wrestling. This is WWE is like has the storylines, and we
That's
didn't
been
even
going-
talk about Fatu.
I know.
That's been going
We
on.
didn't even talk about Jacob Fatu. An hour and a half.
That's been
we're
going.
talking.
That's been going on
He looks
forever
incredible.
too. I mean, the
He
fact
looks
that
great, yeah.
it's like I was talking to Ryan before the show. We were
You can check out that. No, I won't put that.
we
in.
were talking about how they're teasing that Fatu is kind of the leader without being the leader,
Yeah.
because like Solo does not have that demeanor to where Fatu's going to fall in line. He's not going to. Once Fatu doesn't like what he's doing, he's going to take over.
He's like a Muaga. Like you
Yeah.
can control this guy.
And then like with Tamaloa kind of moving away from Fatu,
Yeah.
like, yo,
You saw them like,
yeah,
this is the craziest.
yeah, like this this dude's
Yeah.
nuts. And this is a guy who's been hanging out with Tama Tonga for like majority of his career, and he's just like,
What a debut though! Like
yeah.
putting Cody
was
through the
awesome.
announce table.
They beat up. Then they the fact that Paul Heyman
Randy
told,
Orton wasn't Randy Orton and Kevin Owens out there.
yeah,
Yeah,
they
they
got
came
beat up
out.
too. The fact that
Yeah.
the fact that Paul Heyman came out and told CM Punk he needs to leave so he
He's
doesn't
like,
get beat
help
up.
me, take me with you.
Please. But yeah, so it
What a
just
great storyline. I can't handle it. It's just
Yeah.
like right now I'm like, what am I missing?
talk about a storyline that I did not think had the legs that it does, though. Because like you talk about, you can only go so far with the one guy in Reigns. Wow,
Yeah.
with Reigns being the guy for as long as he was.
My goodness.
And well, granted, by the time it ended, I was ready for it to be over about a year ago. But that's just me.
I think this is the best storyline in all wrestling.
I don't know. I mean, it's
Longevity wise,
Longevity.
character wise,
Oh yeah.
and it's not even close to being over.
It's
We're gonna see Bloodline versus Bloodline. You see
yeah.
that?
To me, it kind of reminds me, and
It's gonna be NWO Wolfpack. is what
and
they're
that was
representing.
that's actually where I was going with
But
it.
here's the difference.
It's you don't have WCW running it. It actually
No.
makes sense.
It's realistic because it is all bloodline.
Yeah.
They're all in this family.
All somehow related. Yeah.
Yeah. So it makes sense. Like the family tree one, they brought it like
Yeah.
Mania when
Yeah.
Rock and Cody, and they were gonna make Rock be the face Roman, and they
The only
turned it. I loved it.
one of the things I
Still
will,
wait for that documentary, WWE.
one thing I
Behind
will
the scenes
give,
at WrestleMania. It hasn't come out yet. Still waiting for it.
one thing I will give them is at least they were smart enough to pivot.
Yeah.
Because it actually started to turn into where people wanted Rock and Cody.
Yeah.
You know, I know that everybody was trying to argue the point,
And he's not done. He's not done.
They always tried to argue that, oh, everybody wants Rock and Roman. I didn't care. I didn't care when it was promoted the first time. I'm like, I don't want to see that, because my only thought was Rock's going to come in, he's going to beat Roman, he's going to
Oh my
he's
gosh,
going to
instead
beat.
of, like the next WrestleMania with The Rock, Roman, Jimmy Uso versus the
The old
Samoans.
school Bloodline versus the new school.
But here's the thing, though.
Or you do that Survivor Series,
Wait,
War Games.
But here's the thing, though. Does
Ah!
Rock stay with Roman? Because
And that's the question.
they
Test him.
walked out on him at Mania after Roman lost.
And that's
he
because like
left the-
chess, what happens, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like so.
Does Solo
They
go
got
with
a lot to
Roman?
build
Yeah,
up from
does
that.
so-
Like,
Yeah,
just
does
that
Solo
one.
leave? Does Solo get
Where
beat
does
up by
Rikishi
Fatu?
come in?
You know, I mean, is Rikishi revealed as like the ultimate?
Bring in
final boss?
Haku. Haku can come back.
Oh my gosh!
Well, they still have Zilla.
yeah,
So he's the youngest one.
There's a lot of like legs on this story that like I honestly just didn't know existed.
I didn't think it was going to be this big. I didn't think it was going to work.
I didn't think I was going to care. I honestly thought once Roman like became champion after 3 years, I'm like, okay, we can end this. And granted, I will say there were definitely storylines where I felt it was a bad call on them to keep it going the way they did. I still maintain that Jimmy's reasoning for turning on Jay, while he said, I didn't want you to become Roman, made sense. His actions after that made no sense. It turned into this like yeet, no yeet thing, which was just stupid. And then
Jimmy has no place right now.
Yeah.
Jay is flying high, man.
And then like you had all that, and then I'm sorry, like I was in that camp that in Montreal, I wanted Sammy to win so bad.
I did too.
I didn't even care if he gave it back the next night, like he lost in a squash or whatever. I was on the
edge of my seat on that.
Oh man, when Sammy did not win, I was trying so hard not.
But that's just a piece of the story.
Yep.
It's crazy.
How long was that?
That's
build?
almost a year ago, right?
That build just when Sammy finally snapped took forever. This is a guy who kicked his best friend in the face to win War Games.
Yeah.
And because he believed so much in Roman and the Usos, and then he finally just had enough and hit Roman, said, I'm sorry to Jay, and then got his head kicked off. It was just like, I mean, it's like that scene in Django Unchained where freaking Christoph Waltz shoots Candy and just looks at Django and is like, I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. And then he gets killed. You know, you're just like, wait a minute. Like, did you just shoot this guy other than the fact that you just couldn't handle it anymore? Like,
it's insane. Like, I can't even process where it's going to go. And that's what I love about it, though. It's like, we don't know.
No.
We can think, and like the Rock's still in play. Roman's and definitely come back.
Yeah, Roman will come back, and I'm curious.
I think the sacrificial lamb is going to be Paul Heyman.
Probably.
And that's going to be the turning point where the wise man gets beat up. I think that's when Roman comes back.
Yeah.
And says, like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
So Paul Heyman gets beat up. He's begging for help.
Yeah.
Ends up getting beat up by one of the people in the new.
I think
probably Fatu.
I think I could honestly see maybe have Tama like just snap.
Yeah.
And be like, you know what? You're the reason we're having these problems still. Take him out as like the last remnant of Roman.
Yeah.
And then have Roman be like, okay, what happened? And then he comes back. Maybe even have him be arrogant and try to think that he's going to come back and control all this. And then have them
too. That would be amazing if at one point we have a huge bloodline where Roman brings them all together.
Well, like have the new bloodline and have the original bloodline come into the ring together and be like, you know, shake hands, you know, hug it out and be like, you know, and then do this and then have Solo and his faction just destroy Roman, the Usos, you know, and everything. And then like after that, it's war, because it's like you were going to bring up, and I was going to bring up too, the NWO versus the Wolfpack. The reason that storyline fails is no one bought it. Mm-hmm. This one is like, holy crap, this is so really good. Well done, and it's not an excuse for a bunch of people to just wrestle each other. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
So,
and I think looking at it too, and I know it's at 9 right now, so okay. I just want to say Cody, since he's won the title, it's like kind of been missing his storyline. He's becoming the ultimate babyface, doing the company stuff. But it's interesting to see where his story is going to go.
I'm curious if they're going to do kind of like what they did with Shawn back in 96. Because when Shawn won the title, he had heel runs. I mean, he was a heel tag team champion. He was a heel IC champion. But he was that snarky heel you wanted to get his teeth kicked in because you were tired of looking at him. I feel like with Cody, if they do it the right way, they're going to give him that edge that he needs. Not that he doesn't have an edge from other things. I mean, this is a guy who literally punched a guy in the face because he insulted his dad, you know, in Ring of Honor. I mean, he told him, like, you know, you look at me in the eye when I'm talking to you and stuff like that. And it was a whole throwback to that whole thing. But I feel like with Cody, if you you have the ultimate baby face, this is a guy who gets cheered in countries that he should be getting booed in. I mean, he went to Scotland and there were more. He sold the most merch of anyone there. He outsold Drew McIntyre,
which is crazy.
This is a dude who is like the all-American.
He's doing the John Cena numbers.
Yeah. And it's just like, but have him take away the white meat baby face part of it. Give him that edge. Give him that, like, I like when you
saw it a little bit.
Yeah.
You saw it with AJ.
But that's the other thing too, is I feel like with Cody, they do a good job of not letting him be stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas that was my struggle with AEW was they had that whole thing where Arn Anderson was like, you got to smarten up, kid. It's like Cody's been in the business forever.
Right.
He should know this by now. So it felt weird. And I liked him. I honestly wouldn't mind if Cody decided to dye his hair black to kind of prove a point of like, I don't need that anymore. I am the American. I'm the American Nightmare. I am Cody Rhodes. This is my title. I'm champion or whatever. And like, I would really like to see him get an edge. Like kind of like when they did Shawn versus Mankind in Mind Games. Shawn was really kind of that, like, can he fight? Versus he can wrestle. He can wrestle better than anybody. Can he fight? Right. And then he fought this guy who was unorthodox, who challenged him in a lot of ways. A guy who Mankind even says that was the best match of his career. So you bring Cody in against the right opponent who can bring out that edge.
It might be Fatu. Might be Jacob Fatu.
That'd be my problem with that in my mind with that match is you have Fatu just whoop the crap out of him for like 20 minutes.
You had like Solo due to Cena.
Yeah.
I feel like Fatu's more believable than Solo.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, he has way more experience.
Yeah. My problem with Solo is he has such a baby face.
Yeah, he does.
I can't take him seriously.
Like he's mean mugging.
Yeah,
he's the youngest. From,
he is.
He wears that red blazer.
Yeah. Like...
I want to be mean.
I am mean now. Mom said I could do it.
I wish you'd more so do that. I think you'd be better heel at that point. So this,
right? Yeah. I just, it just like.
Look me.
He should come out with he should do a cornet.
Tape your thumb as much as you want, buddy.
Come out with a cornet. Come out with a tennis racket. But have Samoan like whatever on it or something like maybe not a tennis racket, maybe like a golf club or something like that.
You're gonna give him Maui's hook.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like what can I say other than you're welcome? And then
what can I say? You're welcome. I love it. That's a good gimmick. They're owned by Disney, right?
It's gonna be The Rock now coming out. Now that he's made that deal with Disney,
they're making a live action.
Yeah. They are. I don't really care. I didn't like the animated one. So I liked
Talk about heat.
I liked the song. I liked the song with Jermaine Clement as the crab, the shiny one. I liked that, and it's weird because I don't really care for it, but I think it's just because it's Jermaine Clement, and I like him a lot. But that movie, I watched it 3 times to try to convince myself it's good. I just don't care. I just don't care.
It's a great movie. It's a great movie.
Which one do you like? This is why he hates the Bloodline. It's Moana.
It's The Rock.
The Rock and Moana. Are you saying you hate Moana?
Saying I don't care for the movie.
Oh, I heard hate.
You can hear what you want.
Hear that, internet? This guy hates Moana.
Point. Boo this man. Boo.
Oh, I didn't do anything. I thought I was going to do something for thumbs down.
Someday.
But no, it just like, I'm curious to see where they go with it. The Bloodline stuff is interesting. I honestly, it's like we've been saying this whole episode. It's a great time to be a wrestling fan.
Fantastic.
It's the fact that we came on the show and we didn't have one show to talk about. We had 3.
Yeah.
And and it was all different stuff from that show. It wasn't one thing from AEW, one thing from TNA, and one thing from WWE. It was multiple things from each show. I mean, it is a fantastic time to be a wrestling fan.
Fantastic time. And I think with that, let's wrap it up. Take it home. Thanks for joining us with episode 10.
10.
All things wrestling. Perfect 10, if you will. 5. As always, thanks for tuning in. Tune in the next time we're in with our podcast on Monday. We'll be filming again, hopefully. But thanks for watching. As always, Moana is a great film. Don't believe our friend over here because we don't want that kind of heat. It's like Taylor Swift fans out there. We don't want that kind of heat.
Haters gonna hate.
We're just gonna shake. We love you. Bye.
Bye. Nice. That was a good one.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Should we name it?
What can I say other than you're welcome?